Hello, this is K.Jolie with Crochet Basics, and in this episode we're going to make this super cute witch amigurumi. And this version is the extended version, is for beginners. I more or less walk you through the stitches and the details and all of that, giving you information, tips, and all of that kind of thing. And she comes complete with a broom, of course, because, you know, witches need their brooms. So let's get this going. What you need is small amounts of, well, pretty much small amounts of each color. You need black, of course, brown for the broom, purple or green, because we're going to do the stockings, gray for the hair, white for the hair also. I'm going to use off-white for the skin tone, okay? And ooh, and a tail, you know, a piece of scrap yarn is perfect as a stitch marker so that we can count our rows without using a real stitch marker because, you know, it's a small item. We don't really need the stitch marker. A measuring tape is always welcomed, of course. I'm going to use safety eyes. Most likely, you can use buttons, small buttons, safety eyes, a scissor, a needle and thread, and if you are inclined, a hot glue gun or regular glue, fabric glue kind of a thing. The needle and thread is for embellishments, and embellishments also, I have these little buttons that are from, I think they're from Dress It Up. They're very small. They're like super cute little small buttons. Okay, that's just for details. And and that's what you need. All right, so let's get started. Ooh, and a stick, like a twig or something, but like a strong one for when we make the broom, so that it's, you know, it's a real stick I used. Okay. And I don't know if you know what safety eyes are, but you get them at the craft store. So I have small ones, I have big ones, I have all different size ones or whatever, and they have ridges and the backs snap on so they don't come out. Alright, so let's get this going. And I'm going to use a G hook, which is a G6. It's a 4mm. And I also have a smaller hook on hand, an F hook, which is an F3, no, I'm sorry, an F5, a 3.75mm. US sizes is what I use because, you know, I'm in the US. And that's also how I, you know, learned how to crochet in the US. All right, so with our G hook, which is a 4mm, 4-point millimeter, if you do a slip knot, that's fine. I do not. I always do a little crossover on my hook. So you're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and in that loop, the first loop that you made, the second one from the hook, you'll do 6 single crochets. And you'll crochet around your tail so that you could just pull it nice and tight, no worries. All right, and you're going to add in your string for this row, and you're just going to crochet right over it and, you know, feed it back in. So, and then at the end we'll pull it out. I've showed you that before in previous tutorials and stuff. So, ooh, and polyfill, that's the brand that I use of fiber for stuffing. So some kind of stuffing, any kind of stuffing is good. You know, pillow stuffing type stuff. All right. So I'm just going to put this right across, and I'm just going to crochet right over it. And I'm going to, you know, pull it out when I'm done. All right. So for row 2, you'll skip over that first chain that you did, and you'll do 2 single crochets in each, and you should end up with 12. single crochets. And we're just working in the round, increasing with each row until we get it big enough, right? All right, so I have 12. From here, you're going to move your yarn back to the front so that we keep count. And for this row, you'll do 2 in the first, so 2 single crochets in that first stitch. So 1, 2, and then 1 in the next, and 2 in the one after that, and then you'll just repeat that for the whole row, and you should end up with 18. Okay, so, oh, sorry. Something pops in my head and I always do that. Ooh. All right. With your starting string, your starting tail that you did, just make a tiny little knot. Pull it nice and tight. Pull that loop nice and tight, and make a little tiny knot. Not a big deal. I've never seen it come out, you know, all of that. But it just keeps it keeps your first loop nice and tight so that you don't have, you know, but I mean, it doesn't matter if she's going to be wearing a hat and blah, blah, but either way, you know, I just like to keep it nice and tight. My preference or whatever. But, you know, good like that. Okay, and then you'll flip your string back, and now you'll do 2 in the first, and then 1 in the next 2 stitches, and you'll repeat that all the way around, and you should end up with 24 stitches for row 4. Here you go. So 1, 2, and then 1 in the next 2 stitches. So 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and then 2 in the one after that, and then you'll repeat that for the row. Okay, so you should have 24 stitches, and our piece is getting nice. It's getting, well, bigger, not that big. It's a small piece. Okay, and then you'll move your piece to the front. So for row 5, you'll do 2 single crochets in the first, so 1, 2, and then 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then 2 in the one after that, and then you'll just repeat that. So you should end up with 30 for row 5. So for row 6, we're not going to increase. We're just going to do 1 in each, and you should still have 30. Okay, but remember to move your string, and that makes it easier for counting and all that kind of thing, you know, so you know how many rows you have in. So row 6, no increase. So you should have 30. That was row 6. So for the next, I'm sorry, I keep hitting the camera. Keep hitting the tripod. I'm sorry. For the next 4 rows, so row 6, so 7, 8, 9, 10, until you get to row 10, do 1 single crochet in each stitch, and make sure you move your contrasting yarn so that you can keep count, okay? All right, so that was row 10, and this is what my piece looks like so far. It's a little little tiny bowl, right? From here, what we're going to do is we're going to put her eyes in, and her eyes are going to dictate her hair, okay, because she does have hair. We're going to give her hair. Got my little box of eyes here, not to be outdone by my bag of eyes. So I do make a lot of, you know, amigurumis and stuff like that, you know, and plush, you know, or plushies they're called. I usually call them plushies, or they usually call them amis and stuff like that. You know, stuffed crochet things or stuffed knit things or what have you. So these are 6mm that I have. Of course, they always fall out of the bag, and I always have loose ones. And I even have, if you do make these or whatever, you should always look around. Here's a nose. You know, I mean, like, look around in the craft store. Here's a nose, and I have other noses and stuff, like puppy noses and things. Always fun if you're going to make like a monster or something, you know. Anywho, so I'm going to take out 2 eyes and 2 backs. And I show you this in a previous tutorial. Once you use these, if you put it in the wrong spot or what have you, that's it. They are done once you try and snap on the back, because that's how they're meant to be. So if you've never seen these before, it's a little, it looks kind of like a screw, but it's not. It's just regular ridges. It's all little ridges. And that hooks in. Sorry, it's so small. And that hooks into your piece. Okay, and you snap it in place. But once you've snapped it in place, if you didn't have proper eye placement, that's it. They're done. You have to cut them off and use another one and all that kind of thing. And that is the whole point of them, because they are safety eyes. They're meant for safety, like, you know, for kids. So kids don't chew them up or, you know, choke on them or any kind of thing. So, and you can get them at the craft store. I've bought them at Hobby Lobby. I've bought them at, I want to say AC Moore and not Michael's. But offhand, I kind of don't remember. And I always have a little method. You've seen me do it before for how I get them on, because I can't necessarily pinch them so tight. You know, there's only so much strength I have, and I don't want to mess a nail or something, you know. Anyway, so you've seen me do this before in a previous tutorial. If you haven't, you don't know what you're missing. Not watching my previous tutorials, because, you know, they're fun, and I show you tricks and tips and all kinds of things. All right? But that's what they look like. Don't you love this? My grandmother had something like this when I was a kid. And that's how she kept her sewing needles that she used on a regular basis. She had a piece of felt sheeting, and that's how she kept her needles. So, love you, Grandma. And they stayed nice, and we stayed out of her sewing kit so that we didn't get stabbed. Okay. So, make sure you have the placement you want. I'm going to put my seam in the back. All right. And you can go bigger with this if you like. Or you can go buttons or what have you. You know. As always your choice, but you want to line them up so that they're in the same row. Of course, you know, you don't want one on top of the head and, you know, one where the mouth should be or whatever. And I said these were 6mm. I don't know if it's a little small or not. But she's a witch. I mean, she could have beady eyes, right? Isn't that how they're portrayed? Beady eyes. Once you have them where you want them, make sure they're lined up. If you like them closer, if you like them further apart, however you like them. The eyes are dictating where the hat's going to go, and they're dictating the rest of the face and how the hair is going to be. Okay? So this is my method of doing it because I'm fun and because I don't necessarily have the hand strength to do it, to snap them on. So this is a screwdriver, adjustable head, pulls out. It's got a flathead and a Phillips, and I use that because it's easier for me, because that's how I roll. And I have a little, this is a 4-ounce hammer. It's a super tiny hammer. You don't want to use pliers. If you go to use pliers and you clamp down on it, you'll scratch the eye. Once your eye is scratched, it's scratched. It's done. Let's see. You want to protect your eye and your surface, you know, however you're going to snap it on. And you're going to push it in place. If you can get it down a ridge or two. Okay, so I don't know if you heard the snap because I'm in the kitchen and my refrigerator's going. So, and I'm just going to snap them in place, and then from there, from the snapping, I'll hammer them on. Not ridiculously hard, and you want to protect your eyes and your surface and stuff. Like this is tight. I got 2 ridges showing. But I like to make sure that they're in, just in case if the kid gets a hold of them, or the puppy gets a hold of them, or the cat, or who knows, you know. Okay, nice and tight. And that's another reason why we use, why I always use the small tiny hook, you know, with the fat yarn, with the heavy weighted yarn, because I know my stitches are going to be super tight. My stuffing's not going to come through. These are not going to come through. You know, they just, it makes it good. It makes it nice and safe, you know. Even though I'm not making this as a kid's toy, I'm making this as a Halloween decoration. You know, you never know. Company comes over. Puppy jumps up. Who knows, you know, people want to touch stuff, whatever it is. Anyway, so these are on pretty good. Oh, that was in the other side, right? Okay. Boop. That goes aside, so won't be needing that anymore. And now we're going to drop some stitches. Some stitches we're going to do decreasing. And we're good to go. So no scratches on my eyes, and my table was protected. So just a couple of layers of felt or a couple of layers of material will protect all of that from happening. And you never want to use pliers to clamp it. If you're going to use pliers, I don't have a pair out, but if you're going to use pliers like that and you don't have the screwdriver, you just open up the pliers, rest it there, and you hit the pliers. Don't clamp on. You'll scratch the eye. Doesn't matter what you do, you'll scratch the eye. That's how that goes. All right. So let's drop some stitches. You got your string in place. So for row 11, we're going to start to decrease, and you're going to crochet 2 together and then do 1 single crochet in the next 3, and then decrease again by crocheting 2 together. You're going to go in, pull up your first one, go into the next, pull it up, and go through both. And that's how we're dropping stitches. And then you'll do 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then you'll drop another. So hopefully you're down to 24 stitches for that row. And then we're going to do the same thing. You'll do 2. So we're decreasing the way we increased is how we're doing. Okay, so, oops. Sorry. All right, so make sure you move your tail. So I'm going to do the first 2 together, and then I'll do 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. Okay, so you should be down to 18 stitches. Okay, and if your head looks if your head looks a little funny, a little squished or what have you, we're going to stuff it. You know, we're gonna fill it back up. Right now, mine's a little dented. You know, from working. Okay. So from here, if you want to do a little mouth now, you can. If not, you don't have to. So for row 12, we're not going to decrease. We're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. And make sure you're removing your yarn, your scrap yarn. And what did we say? We should have 18 stitches? I think we should have 18 stitches. Okay, so you should have 18 stitches. All right, now I'm going to stick a little stuffing up in here. And because you don't want to wait. If you wait until the hole is too small, then sometimes you'll have a problem with it. And also you want to get, if you're using the safety eyes like I did, you want to get a lot of padding behind there. You want them to pop out, kind of a thing. You know, you want them to show. You can always actually like embroider the eyes, or, you know, buttons, I said. You know, however you want to do the eyes is, of course, your choice. Okay, so she should have, I'm getting a little tongue twisted. She should have a nice fat head. A nice round fat head. So that's what she looks like so far. And I'm going to do another row of dropping stitches. And her mouth and her hair will be done. You can do it beforehand. This time around, I know with the Wonder Woman that I did or whatever, I did the hair first before her head was stuffed and everything. But this time around, it doesn't, If the polyfill pulls through a little bit and it looks a little rough, or I don't know what the word is, like a little messed up or a little ratty, you know, not neat, that's fine, because we're going to get the hair in and then we're going to pull some of the strands apart and make it that way anyway. So that doesn't really make a difference. So for row 13, you're going to crochet every 2 stitches together. So every 2 stitches will become 1. So you'll move your tail to the front and you'll start decreasing. And you'll, oops, and you'll do the wrong stitch on camera. Alright, you'll move your tail to the front and you'll push your hand. If you put your finger where the stuffing is, you should be alright to not, like it shouldn't, you know, it should hold its place and not, you know, pull through, is what I'm doing right here. So I'm back down to 6 stitches after row 13, and so we decreased back to 6. So a small little hole. Now with this hole, I'm gonna cut my yarn. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this out. I don't need this anymore, and you might not want to yank. You might want to, you know, if you want to feed it out or whatever, if it's sticking, don't just yank it like crazy. If it's sticking, you can always go right underneath with either your hook or a needle, a yarn needle or what have you, okay? If you're afraid that you're gonna yank it crazy. All right, so what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to pull a tail and I'm going to stuff more in. You always want to try and get as much stuffing in as possible, because sometimes they get smashed and sometimes the stuffing will deflate a little bit and what have you, all right? So I'm just going to give myself a tail and I'm going to sew up the hole. So, but if you can get more stuffing in, it's always good without too much of your stuffing showing in between your stitches. Okay, because that's bad. But this is, you know, we're going to close up the head, so as much stuffing as you can get up in there is good to go. And I mean, her head's pretty stuffed. You know, and then you'll reshape it later, like, you know, after we get the hat on and the hair and all that, and sew the body and all that kind of thing, you'll reshape, you know, you'll squish it and fix it up, that kind of a thing. So whichever you like. I have plastic, I have metal, whichever one makes you happy, and just a few stitches. So, but what I'm going to do is just give her a little mouth. So I'm going to use a hot pink, but you can use red or, you know, black or whatever you like. Just to give her a nice little, I like to do side smirks on them, on my characters. You can make her friendly or you can make her mean, you know, however you like. And then just make sure that you push the tail, if you do it this way, push the tail away from the front so that you don't see it, you know, the pink underneath. And don't pull too hard or you'll crush her face. you'll indent it. Alright, so I'm just giving her a little pink mouth. She looks more happy than sinister, but that's okay. You know, and if you're worried about that, you can always do that before you stuff. I'm sorry, I'm a little backwards tonight. You know, it's Friday and it's been a long week, I tell you. So I'm just going to go across, you know, picking up 2 at a time and tightening it up as I go to close up this hole. But this is your last chance to get, you know, as much stuffing in there as possible. All that kind of good thing, you know. So that's what she looks like so far. She's just a head. She's bald. She doesn't have a hat or any kind of thing. So we'll work on giving her body. So you can get your black yarn if you're going to do it out of that. If you're going to do it black or whatever, we'll do her body first and then her legs. Alright, so we're going to start with the body. And you'll need your contrasting piece of yarn. I'm doing my body in black. That's why the notebook is here, so that you can see the stitches, so that we all keep up and all that kind of thing. So you'll chain 2. We're going to start just like we did the head. Chain 2, 1, 2, and you'll leave that first loop loose so that we can go in. And we're going to do 10 single crochet, and you'll crochet around your tail so that you could pull that nice and tight. I hope my lighting is okay. I have no idea. Alright. And we're in the G hook. We're still in G. Alright, so you'll pull that tail tight. You got 10 single crochet in, and you'll get your loose tail, you know, your scrap with the contrasting color, so that we can use that as our stitch marker, and you'll put it right in between your stitches, and you're going to crochet right around it. Not a big deal. Not through it, because you need to be able to pull it out and not, you know, have any issues. Alright, I hope that's good. Alright, so for row 2, you'll do 2 in each, and you should end up with 20 single crochet. So 2 single crochet in each stitch. So that's 20, and you'll pull your tail to the front to keep your place. So for row 3, you'll do 2 in the first, and then 1 in the next, all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, so that should be 30 stitches. Alright, so we'll do 1 more row of increase, and you move your tail to the back. So for row 4, we're going to increase, and for the body we're increasing by 10 each row. So you'll do 2 in the first, 1, 2 in the first stitch, and then 1 in the next 2 stitches, and then 2 in the one after that, and then you'll repeat that. So you should be up to 40 stitches right now for row 4. So from row 5 to row 15, you'll just do 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around, and you'll move your yarn back and forth just as we've been doing to hold our spot and keep our count. And what was I going to say? No increase, you know. So I just finished row 15. So what I'm going to do for row 16, I'm going to do one more row of single crochet, but I'm going to do it in the back loops only, and I'm going to leave a ridge, which will be the front loops. I'm going to leave that so that we can go back in and we can finish off her dress. So even though we're using the string to hold our spot, I am going to use a stitch marker so that that row stands out better to my eyes, because, you know, it is all black. And sometimes, you know, when it's a dark color like this, it's hard to see where the ridge is. Okay, so for row 16, 1 single crochet in each, back loops only. Alright, so that was row 16, and we did the back loops only so that we could have this tiny little ridge. If you can see it, right here is a tiny little ridge, and we're going to go in. That's for her skirt for later on to finish off her dress. So from here we're going to drop stitches, and what we're going to do is stuff, you know, just how we did the head. So we'll go in and we will crochet, single crochet every 2 together. So you'll move your yarn, your stitch marker, the yarn that we're using as the stitch marker. And you'll go through both sides of the braid. So you pull up a loop, you'll go in the next one, you'll pull up another loop, and you'll do them together. And you'll do that all the way around. And it'll be a little bulky or what have you, but it's not really going to show because she'll have her skirt. So that should bring you back down to about 20 stitches. And we're going to start to close that up. Alright, and we're going to do the same thing again for row 18, every 2 together. We're closing her up real quick here. And that should bring you down to 10 after row 18. You should have 10. So from here, we're going to stuff it. We're going to start stuffing. And I'm using the polyfill brand polyfiber. Sorry. So as much stuffing as you can get in without stretching out your stitches. And if you need, I always tell you, if you need help, I have previous tutorials. I have a whole tutorial, I think it's like 10 minutes or something, on just little notes and stuff and tips on doing the amigurumis, you know. The reason why I, or we, what have you, use such a heavy yarn with a tiny hook, even though it makes it a little harder to crochet and all that kind of thing. And, you know, not overstuffing where you see all the stuffing through your stitches, which happens if you use a thin hook, a thin yarn, you know, or a bigger hook. That could happen, you know, because you want it to look professional, I guess. I mean, that's always kind of what I strive for. I strive for making it look as if, you know, maybe a machine did it or something. But that's just me. That's always kind of been my, when it comes to crochet, I try and be, you know, more of a perfectionist than not, you know. Because I do enjoy it, but I do, you know, I want people to say, like, oh, like, you know, what a nice job, or, oh, that's pretty, you know, kind of a thing. Or, wow, you're so super cool because you make things with yarn, you know. All right, and then you could pull out your tail, and just like I said with the head, if you're afraid it's going to snag or what have you, you can go in with a smaller hook and just loosen it up. Just be careful not to snatch any of your stitches up. Or you can use a, you know, a tapestry needle or a yarn needle to do this, to just loosen it up if you can't get a good grip or whatever and you don't want to yank too hard. But if you support it, it should be okay. If you used a smooth yarn also. So we are going to close up the body. So as much stuffing as you can get in without overstuffing and making it, you know, all funny looking. And then you'll have to reshape it anyway. That's just how that goes, because you're going to sew on the arms and legs and all that kind of thing. And we're going to make her skirt and all that. So I'm going to do another row of dropping stitches, row 19. And so this is like kind of your last chance to stuff this baby up. And I got 2 hooks in my face. Okay. So, and just like I showed you, little tip, you know, if you keep your thumb there, even though it's uncomfortable and it's a little awkward, you know, it holds the stuffing in so that it doesn't get in your way. Your thumb or your, whoops, your index finger or what have you. So 2 together for the entire row, and it should bring you down to 5 stitches? Approximately 5 stitches, hopefully. So as small as you can get this hole is really what you're looking for. And I'm going to pull a tail and I'm going to sew it just like I did the head. And I always, you know, so I mean if you think you need a little more stuffing up in here, you know, if you can get it through this little tiny hole. And I use the fluffier one. The polyfill is very fluffy. The other kind, well, I only know of 2 kinds actually. I've only seen 2 kinds in the craft store actually. And the other one is a polyester, but it's heavier, it's more dense. And what happens with the more dense one is that over time it kind of compacts and it becomes a little bit like a rock, I guess, you know. It becomes very stiff and what have you. Okay, so this is what it looks like so far. A little hump. A little hump. Get a yarn needle and sew that bottom up. And with the with most things, I do like the, you know, my preference is I do like the metal ones because they're just sturdier and they give you a, you know, you can pull it tighter and it doesn't bend or any kind of thing. And don't forget, she'll be wearing a skirt. That's what we left that little ridge for in the back loops on row 16. That's why we crocheted in the back loops only on row 16. So that she'll have her little skirt and she'll be sitting on her caboose. So this is what the piece looks like so far. Here's her head. We're not going to attach that just yet. But we are going to do, in our row 16, that we did the back loops only, we're going to attach the black and we're going to make her a skirt. And we're still in G. So you'll just go along in that ridge. So for the skirt, you'll, I hope it's showing. I moved my light. So I'm going to make a loop, and then I'm just going to go back and pick up my stitches. And it should be about 40 stitches, because that's how big we did. Okay, so do one single crochet through those side loops until you get back to where you were. And this part's a little tricky, you know, because you're working on the side of the piece and trying to pick up your loops and stuff and keep it balanced and all. So I know it's hard to see my ridge, you know, hopefully you see your ridge, because it is a little tricky. But if you don't see your ridge, you can always go, you know, just underneath through the whole stitch and do it that way. But I usually do it through the ridge. I usually make a ridge and, you know, and do that way. But if it's easier for you, then just go through. Just watch if you accidentally pick up your, you know, pull out your stuffing. You don't want to pull out your stuffing. Okay, so once you meet your edge, okay, so once you, you'll slip stitch into where you attached, and then you'll do 2 double crochet in the first and 1 in the next, and you'll repeat that all the way around. Alright, so you should have around 56, I think it is, 54 to 56, and that's, you know, if you're counting your first chaining, alright, as a stitch, as a stitch. So you'll slip stitch into the first change you got here. And I'm going to do another row. So that's what it looks like so far. Kind of funny. Kind of like a hat, actually. Alright, so for this row, I'm going to do another set of double crochets in here. So I'm going to chain 2. So this is the 3rd row on the skirt. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to do 2 double crochets in the first, and then 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then 2 in the stitch after that, so that I'm still increasing. Her skirt is still getting, you know, wide, but not too frilly or, you know, wavy or what have you. So I come up with about 75 to 70. So here I'm gonna end off. I'm gonna slip stitch into the first chains, and you can go a little bigger if you want, whatever you want, you know, I always give you the options. So pull a tail, snip off, weave in. So far that's what it looks like. We're gonna work on the arms, the legs, the hat, all that good stuff. For the feet and the legs, I'm going to use black and I'm going to use purple. So, and you really just need small amounts. It's not, you know, it's a smaller item. So that's kind of like why you save your, you know, your leftovers from blankets and stuff like that, you know, to add in for projects like this. Okay, so for the feet, starting at the foot, rather, all right, with your black, and you'll need your stitch marker, of course, and if you're going to do for the tights, for the legs, if you want to do purple or green or whatever, you know, your choice. So you'll do your slip knot, and I'll do my crossover, and you'll chain 2, 1, 2, and in the second chain from the hook, you'll do 8 single crochet, and you'll crochet around your tail, blah, blah, blah. Same stuff I keep telling you. And you'll add your handy dandy stitch marker, which is working out quite lovely, I must say. So you'll skip over that chain and you'll do 2 single crochets in each. So you'll end up with 16, right? Okay, so from here you'll just use your stitch marker, and we're not going to increase, we're just going to go around and do the 16 stitches for the next 3 rows. And you move your stitch marker onto the inside, and this string from the very start that we're pulling tight, okay, you'll just make a tiny little knot. You'll pull that as tight as you can, that first loop, and then you'll make a tiny little knot, and that's going to be on the inside. No one's going to see it, and it'll hold that hole nice and tight. And that works good with the magic ring. That's what they call that, the magic ring, right? Okay, so make sure you're using your fancy stitch marker to keep your place. Now this always wants to push in the opposite way so that the wrong side of the stitches is showing, so make sure you pop it back out before you get any further or what have you. It just always does that. It does it for me anyway, every time. I guess I'm just special. So now I'm at row 6. I just finished row 5. And of course my yarn is tangled. Story of my life, story of my life. So from here, don't forget to use your stitch marker here. Alright, so from here I'm going to crochet the first 2 together. And then 1 in the next 2, and then crochet 2 together. Okay, so I'm going to do a row of another row of single crochet for we're on row 7 now, right? So from here, okay, this is what that looks like. That's her boot. And I'm going to attach, for row 8, I'm going to attach my stocking color, the color that I'm going to alternate with the stocking. So I'm going to do mine in purple, mainly because I have these cute little purple buttons. So that's my motivation, is using these little buttons here. But that's in finishing touches, and if you're not going to use little buttons, you know, that's on you. You do what you like. So once you attach your opposite, your other color, you don't need your tail anymore. No, that's not true. Well, you may or may not need it. I guess that depends on you. Maybe I'll just leave mine in, just so you see it. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So I'm going to move this forward, and I'm going to go underneath. Here's the tricky part, is attaching and not messing it up. So from here, I'm not going to cut my black. I'm just going to work the row in purple, this row 8, right? 1 single crochet in each in the purple. And I'm going to do another row in the purple. So I'm going to do 2 rows of purple and then 2 rows of black for the stocking. So you'll move your tail and continue on for row 9 with another row of the purple for the stocking. Okay, so I'm going to move my stitch marker, and at this point, you know, you kind of don't need it because you could see where the color changes. I didn't actually do it as smoothly as I usually do it, but that's okay. And you'll pull through in the new color. Oh, and pull the color you were using, pull it tight, but don't cut off. Okay, so I'll switch back for row 12 and 13. I'm going to switch back to the purple. And then I'll switch back. You know, every 2 rows is a different color. So don't snip off, you know, just feed it up when you're ready to go. But always make sure you pull the old color that you were just using, pull it tight. And you want to start stuffing like fairly soon because it makes it really hard to get the stuffing all the way down to the bottom of the item if you wait too long, you know, and you have a really long piece. So we're on row 18 now, and I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do row 18 and then row 19 in the black. I'm going to stuff it up, and then I'm going to pull a tail for sewing it onto the body. Okay, so I'm just gonna slip and pull a tail. And I'm gonna cut my purple. Oh, let me pull out my blue first. So it's kind of important when you're using the scrap yarn that you make sure you're not, pulling through it at any point, because it will jam up and then it'll be very hard to get out through the, through your stitches, whatever I'm trying to tell you. Okay, so I'm going to leave a nice long tail, and if you've ever seen any of my other tutorials, you know I always like to leave myself a little extra so that I know, because it's always easy to take away when it comes to yarn, but it's a pain in the neck to add it, right? So I'm stuffing now. I'm not going to overstuff or any kind of thing, but you want to get it all the way down to the bottom. If you like me, I didn't pre-stuff before this. So you'll just do, pause, rewind, all that good stuff, and you'll make your second leg the same exact way I just showed you. And then we'll get ready to sew it on the body, to seam it up and sew it on the body. But that's what it looks like. Here's our boot. I'm going to embellish the boot with a little button on the side and go from there. Alright. I hope you're still with me. I hope you like making this. So I did my second leg, and just to show you. Now don't overstuff, And also another thing, I tell you this in a different tutorial. When you're doing things like this, that you have to make two of the same piece, like two legs, two arms, what have you, always check before you finish off and sew and what all that and everything. Make sure they're, approximately the same height and all that kind of thing, because, you know why. So once it's done and all that kind of thing. So, you want to make sure that they match and all that kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is, to be honest with you, I'm going to put them aside and start my arms and get that going. Okay, so but I have my two legs, and these will be sewn shut, okay, and flat. They'll be flattened out, and I'll show you that a little bit later, and they'll be sewn under her skirt. And that's why we did her skirt, and that's why we flattened out, like we sealed it up so quickly with the dropping stitches, as quick as possible, to make it more of a flat bottom. But that's pretty much what that's going to look like. And I know my lighting is junky tonight. I'm sorry. Black on black makes it a little hard to see. And I'm also getting the stuffing everywhere too. Alright, so far we got our body made, our two legs, our head, but our head is incomplete. It doesn't have hair and it doesn't have a hat. But let's put that all aside and start working on our hands and arms. Alright, so I'm gonna do in the off-white so that it matches her head. And same hook size, we're using a G, and you'll need your black. Okay, so in the skin color, whatever skin color you did yours in, I wanted to do mine. I thought I was going to do mine in green, but at the last second I said, off-white. Alright, and your handy dandy stitch marker, your scrap yarn, is always good. Alright, here's my G. Alright, so we'll do our hand. So we'll do it exactly the same way. So you'll chain 2, 1, 2, and in that second chain from the hook you'll do 6 single crochets around your tail so we could pull that tight. Okay, and then we'll pull that nice and tight, and that'll close that up, and we'll get our handy dandy stitch marker that was way super expensive, right? And we'll put it right in between our stitches. Okay, so in this you'll skip over that chain because we're not picking up chains tonight. And you'll go into the first one and you'll do 2 single crochets in the first, 1 in the next 2 stitches, so for this row we'll use our fancy stitch marker, put it in between, and I'm going to knot my little tail here from my starting chain because that'll keep that knot in place so that if we accidentally overstuff or what have you, it's not a problem later on. And I'm gonna snip this. Tonight it's been in my way. Normally I just shove it, into it when I'm done with the row, but tonight they've just been in my way, my little tails. Alright, so you'll just, for row 3, you'll just do 1 in each. 1 single crochet in each, and use your fancy stitch marker. So for row 4, 1 in each, also 1 single crochet in each, and you should have 8 stitches. Okay, so here we're going to do a color change, and I'm going to change it to the black so that I can get my sleeves going. So you'll go in, you can move your fancy stitch marker. I don't know if I should zoom in or not, I keep saying that. Okay, so you'll go in to your next stitch, you pull up a loop, you have 2 of your skin color, hold it tight, and where's my, okay, and then you'll just pull your black straight through, and you'll pull your skin color nice and tight, and then you'll start working in the black, in the new color you just added. Alright, so for row 5, 1 in each. Okay, so from here I'm going to cut my skin color, and I'm going to make a knot with that. Flew right out of my hand. And I'm going to make a little knot with that. And the tail from your black, where you first attached, you could just shove it right up on there and leave it there. Or cut it away, whichever you prefer, Most crocheters, I don't know if they make knots or whatever, but for little things like this, I'm not going to weave this in. A little knot is fine as long as I've, crocheted around my end. It's not a big deal. Okay. And if it's really in your way, you could snip it off or what have you. But I usually just, try and stick it in there. A little extra padding. or what have you. Alright, so from here up, you'll use your stitch marker. We're just going to do it in black. I was going to do, you know, like the legs or whatever. You could do that if you want. I'm not going to do that because it just takes a little too much time. So, and this video is already running long. And you'll move your stitch marker so that you can count your rows. 11 rows, so 5 through 11, row 5 to row 11, just one single crochet in each stitch all the way around. Alright, so I did 11 rows and pulled the tail. I'm gonna cut this, pull out my wonderful stitch marker that I love so much, and I'm gonna get a little bit of stuffing in there. With things like this, I always tell you stuff as you go, but today I seem to be disregarding my own advice, which I usually don't, but I'm not gonna overstuff or any kind of thing. I'm just gonna stuff it just enough. I don't want to stick too much in this in the arms. Yeah, I don't want to stick too much in the arms. Okay, but that's my first hand and my first arm made. So I'm going to make another one same exact way, and then we'll get ready to attach our body parts. Okay, so if you have to pause or whatever, come back, things like that. Ow, I can't tell you, I keep hitting my camera today with my head. With my head, not even just, you know, like, oh, I'm tapping it with my arm, but I must be tired because I just keep hitting it with my head. All right, I'm gonna make my second arm, you make your second arm, and we'll meet back here when we're done. Okay, so we got our body, our head, our 2 legs, feet included, and our 2 arms, hands included. Okay, and I might go back and do a little detailing on the hands. Sometimes I like to do that. That's just me. Okay, so but what you need to do first, before you do, you know, anything else, whatever, before you sew your legs on and stuff like that, is actually sew the head on. Because the head is gonna, you know, dictate your placement on the arms and the legs. Okay, so I'm gonna use black yarn to sew the head on, and a yarn needle. Easier that way. And you want to do tight stitches, you know, you want small tight stitches on this when you sew it on. And I'm using a yarn needle, or it's a tapestry needle, but it's metal. Alright, so you just want to make sure that you got it on nice and good. It's not hanging off on one side or any kind of thing like that. Alright, with that. So, and you want to do smaller stitches, you know, and try and not get up on the face if you're going to do it in black. And if you're doing it in the skin color, make sure you're not getting it, you know, doing too many big stitches where it shows all through, kind of a thing. So that's what she looks like so far. Our little witch. Her head is attached. We like that. Okay. So once that's attached, once your head is stuck to your body, of course, you know, we can attach our legs and our arms. So what I'm going to do here is just seam up the arm itself before I attach it. And I didn't stuff the arms too much, you know, I really just like a little deflated, and especially on the top, across the top, because then they'll, if you stuff them heavy to the brim, they will stick out after you sew them on, like, you know, like that. And I don't want that. I wanted them to hang a little bit lower. Okay. So I think I'm going to put them out to the side. And you can count, you know, your rows down, but you actually covered some of your rows. So you can always count from the bottom where the skirt is, because you know that's row 16, up, if you feel like you're not going to get like the proper placement or what have you. But I am a rebel. Okay, so I'm just going to attach it right here. Off to the side of her eye. And I'm going to go right through that little seam that I just did. So make sure you get it nice and tight on there, and watch for, you know, hitting the head. You don't want to hit the head with your needle. Now if it's sticking out too much to your liking, you can actually sorry, you can actually put a stitch through, not too far down, but if you go in right under the arm and then just anchor it in, you know, then you're good. Okay, so that's one side. And don't forget, you know, with the stuffing and everything, because you're squeezing and you're sewing and you're, you know, you're pushing down and all this kind of thing, you are going to have to reshape this little lady when you're done, just so that it's nice and not crazy looking, because it will look all types of wacky. Okay. I just got my nails done today. I'm already wrecking them, which happens whenever I do amigurumis, I must say, actually. So I'm going to sew my other arm on and then move on to my legs. And my legs are going to come from the front. And they're not going to be centered, they're going to be more towards the front. So you'll just repeat the same process you just did for the first one of sealing it up, you know, sealing up the top of the arm and then sewing it on. Okay, and you'll follow your row around. So you did it in this row here, and you'll follow it to the other side, and that's where you'll attach. Oh, we're also going to make a broom for her. She also has a broom coming too. I forgot to I forgot to remember to say that. This one doesn't want to sit, but it will, you know. But it doesn't really matter because she's going to be holding her broom. So, you know, she can hold it under her arm. Not a big deal if you have the same problem. Or you could just go in and do a stitch, or you can get your, you know, your hot glue gun and glue it under, or a little fabric glue or some kind of something. Not too big of a deal, you know. Alright, my arms are on. That's what she looks like so far. Okay. So I hope you're still with me. I hope you're still making it. Or either way, watching the video, you know, getting ideas and stuff like that. But so far, super cute. And don't forget, we're going to, you know, I always say super cute. Sorry, I can't help that. And, you know, and then we're going to embellish her and stuff. And we're going to sew on her legs and all that kind of thing and hair. All right. So I'm going to get ready to sew my legs. And we'll go from there. Okay, so we'll attach her legs now. And a yarn needle will do it. So I'm going to seam up the leg is what I did. I seamed up the top. I squished it down and I seamed it up. And I'm going to use the tail that I left hanging down. So it's supposed to be like that. So that she's sitting, you know. So I'm just going to go right in, right under where her skirt starts. Her, well, her skirt. And go right through the top. And you want to try and get it, you know, the stitches as tight as possible. So just squeezing the top, you know, the two pieces together and just sewing around. So that's what she looks like so far. Okay, her legs are on, her arms are on, her head is attached to her body. Alright, so let's work on her hat and her hair, and then the broom. And the broom, you know, optional of course, or whatever. So let's do her hat. So chain 30, chain 30 for the hat. Alright, so for the hat, you're going to chain 30, and you'll slip stitch into the first chain that you made, and pull up a loop so you have a nice ring. And just a side note, you know, your head might have came out different than mine, so you might just want to check and make sure it should be like a headband, like a ninja. So for this first row, we'll do 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. And you should end up with 30. So get your handy dandy stitch marker, and we're just going to work in the round without chaining or any kind of thing like that. So for row 2, you'll do 1 single crochet in the first, 2 stitches, and then crochet the next 2 together. And then you'll repeat that all the way around. So 1 single crochet in the first 2, and then you'll drop 2. Well, you'll drop 1. So I come up with about 24 stitches. So you move your stitch marker, and 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So for row 4, you're gonna do 1 single crochet in the first 2 stitches, and then you'll crochet 2 together, and then you'll repeat that again for the rest of the row. So you should have around like between 17 and 19 stitches or so, and you'll move your stitch marker for row 5. Okay, so for row 5, just 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So you should have around 17, between 17 and 19 stitches at this point. And we're going to move our fancy stitch marker and we're going to drop stitches again. So that's what it looks like so far. Little, the start of a cone, the bottom of a cone. So you'll do one single crochet in the first 2 stitches, and then you'll crochet 2 together, and you'll repeat that all the way around till you get to your fancy dancy stitch marker. So I got about 14 stitches, and I'm going to move my stitch marker, and for row 7, 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So for row 8, you'll do 1 single crochet in the first 2 stitches, and then you'll crochet the next 2 together and repeat that for the row. So you should have between 11 and 13, and so for row 9, just 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. Okay, so for row 10, we're going to crochet every 2 together. So every 2 that you come across, we'll crochet them together. Okay, so you should only have a few left, so just do 1 single crochet. One single crochet all the way around, and then just go through the top, the very top 2 stitches, and slip stitch through all of them and pull a tail. Okay, so even if you have a few unworked, don't worry about it. It's kind of Alright, so I'm going to pull a tail. Just keep crocheting them together until you drop them all after row 10. And then pull a tail and pull it out, and that'll give you a better point at the top of the hat. You want to support your fancy stitch marker when you pull it out. And you could do a little knot if you like. Or you could thread it on a yarn needle, pull it through to the inside, and then do your knot. Alright. Okay. Not really so much of a big deal. We're actually going to attach the hat. We're going to sew it onto her head. If you feel so inclined, I guess you can glue it on. I usually don't use glue with yarn. That's not me. I don't like hard spots. I don't like crispy yarn. I don't like hard spots in my yarn. Okay. So, but if you feel so inclined, that's definitely your choice. Alright, and we're going to give her a brim on her hat. Alright, and hopefully this shows. It looks like a gnome's hat. That's so funny. Alright, so but for now, that's her hat, and we're going to put a brim on it. So it should come, let's see, yeah, about a row and a half above. It actually should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It should be the width of the 5th row. That's why I had you chain 30, because the 5th row of her head is 30 stitches. In case you didn't realize that, or you didn't remember, or whatever, you know. Okay, so next let's get some hair going for her, and whoops, and we're gonna start at the 5th row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you want, what was I going to say? I'm just sticking that there for now, just so that I know when I start not to really go above that line as far as that's concerned. So we'll be starting at the, like, under the 5th row, so that her hat sits. It's kind of weird. My camera's kind of weird because I'm shooting down so you can see what my hands are doing, but now that she's all together, she's sitting up, so I'm sorry for the angle. I wish I had a better, you know, one for you. I guess I could drop the camera, but then it'll be all hands kind of a thing. Oh. And of course, you know, that's what I've been trying to avoid lately, is just, you know, close-up of my hands. I've been trying to give you a better angle on these videos lately, since I got the new camera and tripod and all that kind of thing. So I guess 3 videos ago, or 4 videos ago, or some such. Alright, anyway, I'm flapping away because it's late at night and I have a tendency to flap. Let's get going on the hair. So, whatever color you choose, I have a light gray. I don't know if the camera will pick up the color because I'm working in black, and it just, I feel like none of the colors are showing up right on this doll, actually. Aside from the black, which blends with the table here. Anyway. So I'm going to pull strands of gray, white, if you feel so inclined. If you have a, you know, a green or a brown or what have you, whatever colors, you know, you want to put in her head. So you can't even see. This is a green. That's a sage. It's a light sage. It doesn't even show, as far as I can tell. But I have a light right here to try and combat the darkness. Ah, all right. Anyway, so you're gonna cut strands. Okay, they're gonna be folded in half, and we're gonna trim them up later on. So a little longer is not bad if you want to do, say, I don't know, 6 inches. Usually like 6 inches, because 6 inches folded into 2, you know, it's a little less than 3 inches because of the fold. I usually have a book to do this with, but let's see what I got. Okay, my fancy dancy date book. Alright, so you don't need that much hair. This is just a trick So whatever colors you want, you could do it one color at a time or a few colors at a time, or however you want to do it, as always. But a simple way of doing it is when you get the colors that you want. How big is this book? Oh, perfect, 6.5 inches. My little date book here. All right, so you would wrap it around a few times, as much hair, and don't do a tremendous amount, because you can always do more, right? So this book here is 6.5 inches, I just said. All right, and not a big deal. So from here, so this is a good trick, because this is also good if you do what do they call that, latch hook, when you make the rugs. Oh, my grandmother used to make those. I love those. Anyway, and then you would just give yourself a little snip across. And even if you were going to do a doll with longer hair than this, but just make sure you hold your yarn tight when you're cutting it, because you don't want to mess yourself up. And then you just cut along the edge, both edges, or one edge, depending on, if you're making one with longer hair. Okay, just a little cool trick. All the hair is the same length, Sometimes you won't have that book though, I'm just saying. All right, and then for this is the smaller hook that we're going to use. So you don't want to hook too big. You don't want to space the holes too much. Okay, so I'm going to leave this pin in. Don't do it with the pin. Sorry, don't do it with the pin. All right, I'll show you a different thing. Let me get rid of this pin, this needle here, just in case. I don't want anybody to do that and get hurt and just be like, Jolie, you're nuts. All right. So, just to show you, count down. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So, I'm just going to put this here, go right underneath, and this is just going to hold where I'm doing the hairline. All right, so when I sew the hat on, when I do the hair, I know I'm going below that. So, little creative marking, I guess, right? And then this blue line here will just go underneath that. We won't do the top of her hair, the top of her head, because the hat's going to be there, and we don't want the hat will be sewn on, so you won't even see the hairline actually. So what you're going to do here with your smaller hook, what you're going to do here is you're going to pick up a strand of the yarn that we just cut, fold it in half. Okay, so working down, you'll go underneath, you'll fold your yarn in half, you'll go underneath, you'll pull through, and you want them all to be going in the same direction. And even if some are shorter and some are longer, don't worry about it. You can trim her hair up if it bothers you or what have you. But you do want them all going in the same direction and all that kind of thing. And if your nails get in the way, you just do like that. And this is how they do, I think this is how they do latch hook. My grandma used to do it when I was a little girl. Okay? But I'm just going to grab the yarn that I cut. That's why I cut the 3 colors together, so that I could just grab it randomly. No rhyme or reason. She's a witch. I'm not giving her highlights. I'm not going to style her up or any kind of thing. So, just randomly. And you would just work your way down. And I started in the back. You could always start in the front on the sides or whatever, the sides of the hat if you like. but I started in the back, and then I'll just work my way around to the front. And you could do whatever color, you know, you want her hair to be if you do want to give her highlights or what have you. You know. But this is, it's a little tricky, and you don't want it, you want to try not to put too much in one section. You know, space it out. You don't want to wreck your stitches, you know. You don't want it to be all crazy looking and mess your stitches, kind of a thing. And you can just, you know, follow that headband, you know, like one row below the headband is a good place to start. You could always start at the bottom, and I don't mean like the very bottom where her neck is, well, her non-neck, you know, but just a few rows, not too far down, not too high up. You don't want it to interfere with the sewing of the hat, and you don't want it to, you know, come any lower. All right, and here, you know, figure her face here. You can always start it a few back from the eye. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Say 4 back from the eye. 4 stitches back from the eye. But eyeball it, you know. See where it takes you. See if you like it or whatever, you know. Maybe you don't want it there. Or whatever. And her hats, we're going to do a brim on her hat too. So you'll just continue with the hair. And if you don't want to do the hair this way, you know, that's your choice, of course, as always. Because this is time consuming, doing the hair this way, you know, one strand at a time or whatever. Alright. So I'm just going to continue with the hair for now. And then I'll get back to the hat, because I want the hair to be done when we do finish off the hat. Alright, so but what you'll do with the hair, if you want, you could trim it up and all that kind of thing. You're only going to do about maybe 3 rows, like maybe 1, oh, let me show you the stitches. Okay, so like 1, 2, 3 rows, and just around. Alright, so for now I'm just going to shut the camera, and you know, you don't need to see me put every hair in. That's just silly. And that's also a lot of editing and all that kind of thing for later on for me. Alright, so but you'll just continue like this with the hair, and then you'll, you know, do the same thing on this side. What did I say? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can always, you know, after the hat's on, you could always go in and add a little more hair if you're unsatisfied. Alright, so you can mark it like that. I find it so funny that I gave her a headband to do her hair. It's a little silly. Alright, so you know, stop the video, pause it, whatever you're going to do, and then come back for final touches for the hat, and, you know, attaching the hat and stuff. And last minute embellishments, or, you know, ending embellishments, finishing touches, all that wonderful stuff. So this is what our witch looks like so far. So funny with the headband. Alright, I'm going to shut the camera, and I'll be, you know, back in a little bit, pause or what have you. So I did my hair, and I did it all the way around. I didn't put too much in the front, but I did want her to have like a little bit of bangs and stuff coming out from underneath her hat. So don't trim it yet. All right, leave it scraggly or whatever for now. And then after we get the hat attached, then we'll trim it, because then you'll see how you know, you want it to be. Or, you know, if you, for placement on the hat, to make sure that you got all the areas, you know, that you wanted filled, anything that's going to show, so that it doesn't look like she's got a monk, you know, balding issue. Okay? All right, so with the hat, same hook size G hook we're in. You'll attach your yarn, your black yarn, to the back of the hat and chain 2. So we're going to do pretty much what we did with the this with her skirt. Okay, so you'll do 2 double crochet in the first one, and then 1 in the next, 1 double crochet in the next, and you'll do that all the way around. And then you'll slip stitch into the first chains that you made, pull up a loop, pull a tail, and cut off, and weave in and all that good stuff. So that's our hat, and we're gonna stuff a little before we close up when we're sewing on, so that you know, it's full, it's not flattened out and stuff. So, but that's what that'll look like, and you're gonna sew it around your edge, where you pretty much where you just attached. So right in, you know, right at the base of your double crochet that you just did. So leave her hair, and I'm going to use a yarn needle, and some black thread, of course, and small stitches. You know, you want it to be nice and tight. What did I want to do? Oh, okay. I'm gonna just tuck in my tails here. And you could just weave that right into the back to the hat, you know, back to where her head's going to be in the hat. Not too much of a problem, you know. I can't tell how my lighting is today. But I gotta finish this up. And you know, depending on your skill set, your you know, your level and how fast you crochet and stuff like that. For the most part, I made most of her body and her head and everything and her hat in one night. But also it's my pattern, so I knew, you know, how I wanted it to be. And then the hair took the longest part, of course, you know, cutting the hair and then putting it in. That took a while. But it does work up, you know, it's small pieces, it's just the attaching usually takes a while. And then all the sewing of the pieces together and stuff, and weaving in the the hair. When you do hair like that, it always takes a while, but I really don't think I know another way to do it, or haven't thought of another way to do it, you know, yet. And you could trim, if you don't want to, you know, stuff your strings in, you can always trim them off, not a big deal. But when I have, you know, usually when I have like loose ends and stuff, I always kind of try and use them as extra stuffing, you know. Instead of snipping them off and throwing them out, I figure, you know, well, at least they're getting used for something with the edges and stuff. Alright, so what you're going to do here is get some, you could do it with thread if you like, or, you know, a regular needle and thread and what have you. So this is the back of my hat. I know because that's where I attached. And I'm just going to put it on her head and sew it around. And you want to hold your hair down. So if you need to, you can always put a, what's that, a rubber band, you know, or a hair tie to hold it in place, to hold it in place. Okay? So if you need to, and you could take your string out because you don't need that, the string that her headband, her little headband that we use to mark her scalp. So temporarily that's what she looks like with her hat, and that's all the way around. And if you wanted to make the brim bigger, of course, your choice, you know. And just a side note to be careful, make sure you're hitting the, you're going through the actual head and not just, you know, hair. Because then the hat won't be attached. And you'll be like, oh my goodness. Okay, so just make sure you're hitting hair. I mean head. Make sure you're hitting head. Sorry, a little backwards. So, and also make sure, you know, her eyes and whatever aren't covered. You know, you got really good placement on the hat so that you're not covering her eyes and stuff like that. You know, sewing right up on the eyes or any kind of thing. And also, you know, like I said, don't forget, you know, leave a little space where you can shove in your stuffing. And just not too much stuffing, you know. Alright, so I got a little more than a thumb that I could stick my stuffing through. And don't overstuff, you know. You kind of want the hat to be a little squishy. A little bit squishy. Not too over the top stuffed, you know. Unless you really want to. Okay. But and I'm gonna not too full, you know. I can flatten her out, you know, her hat out or whatever, but just not too flat, because then it'll it won't look right. Or it might not look right, rather. Alright, so let's see. So I think I got it good. I think it's on good. It seems like I got, you know, a good attaching type thing. So that's what she looks like so far. And you could take your hair tie off. You don't need that if you use the hair tie, you know, to hold her hair in place and stuff while you were sewing, just so that it stayed flat and you were able to sew around it. All right, and then you'll give her a haircut is, you know, what we're gonna do. So you don't want it too short, you know. I mean, like, you know, her hair is all different colors here, the way I did it, you know, for mine. So I kind of don't want her hair even, like, you know, all the way around. I kind of don't want that. I want it uneven and like a little scraggly and stuff like that. But just not too long or whatever, you know, is what I don't want. So I'm just going to, you know, cut it uneven. And be careful not to hit her arms or any kind of thing like that, you know. So I might trim a little more, not sure. But for now, that's what she looks like with her brim and her hair. So a little unruly, a little unkept. Okay? More or less. Alright, I promised you broom. I don't know if I promised it, but I said let's do a broom. So I'm going to use brown for the bottom, of course, for the bristles. Alright, and paper towel to protect my surface. I'm going to use regular school glue because I don't normally use glue guns. To be honest with you, I've burnt myself way too many times as far as the glue gun goes. Alright, and I got a nice sturdy twig, a stick from the yard. And 1 second. So I got 2 different browns. School glue. You can use hot glue if you feel. I just usually don't. Okay. And I'm going to use this side. Alright, so more or less you're going to make like a tassel. Kind of how we just cut the hair. Alright, and I've got a cotton yarn and an acrylic yarn that I'm putting together here. You know, 2 different colors. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. That it's 2 different colors, but I have 2 different colors. And we're going to trim that up or what have you. But just to get it going. So you'll make a few layers. You know, you'll bend it over, make a few layers. And I'm going to wrap it with my acrylic. Alright. So I'm going to cut the ends, the loops, the edges that we did just now. Just now while you were watching, I swear. And you know, of course you don't have to do the broom if you don't want to do the broom. Alright, but I'm going to lay them out and I'm going to stick them on. Oh, and this glue dries clear, of course. Okay, now I'm going to trim that up, and you could do thicker, whatever, you know, and you can always go back in and add more, of course, because we're just going to wrap this around. So hold it in place, wrap this, and try and get it, you know, as good as possible. But we want this, you know, we want it to look like haggard, or, you know, used, haggard, all that kind of stuff. And as much, cover as much as the twig as possible. And I'm just going to make a simple knot. So I'm going to leave a space, pull that through, tighten her up. And I'm going to do that again, of course, because I'm a stickler. And you don't have to use yarn for the broom if you don't want to, you know. I always try and give you the options, you know that. Alright, tighten that up. And then I'm just going to put a little bit more glue and glue it in place. And the glue dries clear. Of course, you want glue that dries clear. So you let that dry, and then you'll trim it all up, of course. But you want it, you know, as close to the edge without slipping off. I'm really having a hard time with my lighting today, I'm sorry. Finally at the end of this video, you know, filming it for you. And then I'm having issues. And just uneven. I'm just snipping here and there. I want it uneven, like it was, you know, like it was an old-fashioned brush, how they, broom, how they made them way back in the day and all that kind of thing. And if you feel so inclined, you can pull out the spirals with a humana. What did I do with? Okay. Just with a pin or a wire brush, a metal brush, you know, but you want it to look scraggly, unkept, blah 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 blah. Not neat. You know, her hair isn't neat, so why would her broom be neat? And you can also do this with the hair, if, you know, her head hair, to make it look more unkept, if you like. So I'm using a pin. Don't ask me why. A wire brush would be good, but since it's loose yarn, you know, I don't want to yank it all out. I don't want to make it a disaster, you know. And a pin is kind of dangerous because, you know, I could stab myself. So. Okay, so let the broom sit and dry. And what you can do, if you want, I'm going to get all my little fluffies all over. What you can do, if you like, you can sew it into her hand or glue it into her hand, you know, like that. Okay, she can't really ride it because I did mine smaller, but if you do yours bigger, she could ride it, you know, you could strap it right on and all that kind of thing. But I'm going to do some embellishments. Also, I had said earlier, I got my little buttons, and I am going to put buttons on her. So when you see her in final pictures, you know, after I finish doing the video, when you see her in, you know, final pictures and stuff on, you know, on Pinterest and Instagram, and also on my Facebook and all that kind of thing, you'll see that she'll have the little button embellishments and stuff like that. All right. So anyway, I hope you like making this. I hope, you know, you give it a try. It's always fun to try a new pattern. Sometimes frustrating to try a new pattern, but it's always fun to try a new pattern. If you haven't subscribed, please do. You know, I have other patterns coming out and other videos and tutorials and things of that nature and stuff, you know, if you want to come back and stuff. And as I said, my previous videos, I teach you pattern reading, label reading, a little bit about different yarns and different stitches and stuff like that, and projects and stuff like that, preparing yourself to do projects, different projects. And with that, as always, happy hooking, because it keeps you off the streets, keeps you out of trouble, you know, and always looking super cool to all your friends. And I'll be back soon with another tutorial, of course, because that's, you know, that's what I do. I enjoy making these videos for you. Makes me, keeps me off the streets, as I like to say. Keeps me out of trouble. And I hope you subscribe, and I hope you have a super duper great day. Thank you so much for watching Crochet Basics, K.Jolie, and my little witch here. And I'll be back with more. All right, take care. Have a great day. Bye.